Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Brass Junkies. I am your host, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by my infinitely talented and inspirational co-host, Lance LaDuke. Lance, how are you?
I feel centered and one with my chi.
Yeah, see, you're full of crap. As you are about to hear, we were joined for this episode by one of the most thoughtful people I know, who also,
thanks, man.
Yeah, not you, jackass.
Our guest.
Yes, our guest. Yeah, I mean, she's almost as thoughtful as Lance is. Put it that way. But she also happens to be one of the best horn players in the world, and her name is Jen Montone. Jen is the principal horn of the Philadelphia Orchestra, formerly of the Dallas Symphony and of the St. Louis Symphony and of the Boston University Tanglewood Institute Young Artists Orchestra. She's got a lot of things on her resume.
With Juilliard and Curtis.
Yeah, that too. Plays in the National Brass Ensemble. She's incredible. And the as you're about to hear, like her approach to nerves and stage fright is like really incredible. Yeah, it's stuff that I love people like her, because she not only thinks about a lot of this stuff a lot, but she also is really good at explaining it, know, and there's a lot of players who don't even think about it, which means that you're not a good teacher, because if you don't understand a concept, you can't explain it to people. But then there are a bunch that do think about it, but then aren't good with their words. And I just love getting to, even just hearing people talk, but getting to actually talk to someone like Jen is it's just great. It's obvious that she has a passion for what she does, and yeah, I think you're going to really like this conversation.
Yeah, agreed.
We need to thank a couple of people. We need to thank Parker Mouthpieces for providing our hosting. Parker Mouthpieces offers fine, customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz Artist Model Tuba Mouthpiece and the Lance LaDuke Model Euphonium Mouthpiece. You can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Thank you very much to the Mary Pappert School of Music at Duquesne University, the brass area. We have a great relationship with them. Jim Nova helped set that up. You can find out more about the going on at Duquesne University and the Mary Pappert School of Music by clicking on the link below. And thank you to them.
My good friend, Jeremy Lewis, Dr. Jeremy Lewis, who is the assistant professor of tuba and euphonium at West Texas A&M University. He asked me to tell you about the South Central Regional Tuba Euphonium Conference. It is March 15th to 17th, so it is next week, and it is at West Texas A&M, which is in Canyon, Texas, and it is featuring Chris Buckley, who is awesome. I got to play a little bit of Planets action with him, sitting next to him with the Baltimore Symphony, which we had a very good time. Tim Busby, Ben Pierce, and Charles Villarubia. That is one hell of a quartet right there. So Jeremy also wanted me to remind you that everyone loves conferences, absolutely everyone. And you can find out more about the South Central Regional Tuba Euphonium Conference at skrtec2018.weebly.com. That's SCRTEC2018.weebly.com. And there is, as always, a link in the show notes to this. Patreon, folks. Next week, you are going to get a treat. Anyone who is our patron for as little as $1 an episode, which is $26 a year, you will get access to every other week. This comes out for free. It will always remain free forever. But then the week in between the episodes is always filled with a short bonus episode featuring the guest that we just spoke with the previous week, and also our thoughts summarizing it. And this one was hilarious. It was awesome. I'm not going to spoil it, but it was, let's just say that it was the exact opposite vibe from the incredibly thoughtful conversation that we had with Jen. And I love the fact that she's the one that brought it there. So which was like, yeah, it was, and then we were more than happy to hang out where she brought us. So, but yeah, really good stuff. You can go to patreon.com/thebrassjunkies. And the good news is that if you become a Patreon patron, you instantly get access to all of the previous bonus episodes and other bonus content that we have going for you there. So you get the full back catalog of that. And we always have a lot of fun with the bonus episodes. So thank you to all of our Patreon patrons. Also, we are almost to $100 per episode. We're getting close. And when we do that, Lance and I are going to record an album of trumpet duets together, and we will actually be playing it on trumpets. It's gonna be, it's yeah, it's gonna hurt.
It'll hurt us. It'll hurt you
emotionally, physically. Yeah, we're going to clear a month of our schedule so that we don't have any gigs, since we're probably not going to be able to play very well afterwards. But yeah, that's what's coming. So, and when I say album, I do not mean an hour. you won't want an hour, trust me. So, JD Shaw's already agreed to do the arrangements. So, which is going to be good. So. Isn't that awesome that we can get one of the best brass arrangers of all time to record us playing trumpet duets? It's yeah, my career kind of mystifies me at times. So the people that I get to do things for me. But anyway, and also we're on Instagram at Pray 4 Yens, at Pray for Yens. We're also on Twitter. We got a Facebook page. And iTunes, for those of you who have left us a rating and a review on iTunes, thank you. That's how people find us. Yeah, it's huge help. That's how people find us on their favorite podcast app. It helps every algorithm for discovery, and that's what helps to spread the word. And when you hear the first half of this interview, then like people need to hear from people. By the way, you want to host a really good podcast? Book phenomenally talented guests, and it does not matter what the one, or in this case 2 idiot hosts say or don't ask in a timely manner. You interview people like Jen Montone, and people are going to say that episode was incredible. So that's that. Yeah, there's my that's my full podcast consultation package right there. I just gave you all for free. So anything else, Lance?
No, just the love and devotion to you, our delightful listeners.
Yes. I'm not laughing at the sentiment, just at your intentionally moronic way of delivering that message. So,
I don't understand what you mean by that, Andrew.
You are... I do. Speaking of our careers, which a lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about and wondering
about
how, why. But yeah, I love the fact that since we both found our way into the chamber music world, and specifically the brass chamber music world, where it's like semi-expected that you're going to be a jackass on the mic, that we actually monetized being jackasses. That's something.
Joke's on who?
Yeah, it's not on us. So, what do you do for a living? I'm a jackass into a mic, and I play the tuba professionally. It's like, sure you do. Anyway, all right. Well, enjoy this fantastic conversation with the principal horn of the Philadelphia Orchestra, Jen Montone. And today on the Brass Junkies, we are joined by one of the best horn players in the world, and that is not hyperbole. Her name is Jen Montone, and she is the principal horn of the Philadelphia Orchestra, and she is a complete badass, and we are very happy that she is joining us. So, Jen, how are you today?
I'm good. You're so nice. Thank you.
Well, it's all the truth. I wouldn't be saying that if it wasn't true, because people would then email me. But no, you're just incredible, and it's great to have you here. So I'm sure the highlight of your career was when Lance played euphonium with the Philadelphia Orchestra. When was that, Lance?
Naturally.
Mm-hmm. That was last year, year before. Can't remember. 1 or 2 years. It was Janacek and then, well, went on the resume, I can tell you that. It's perfect because I hadn't played with orchestra before. I was, the euphonium guy.
Yeah.
And you guys are always using, well, first of all, Matt Vaughn is a ridiculous euphonium player. So he always, when the section was at full strength, you've got a ace in the hole there. And likewise here in Pittsburgh, Pete is really great. So when I got the call, fantastic. When I found out that it was Janacek and I just had to go for like a minute and a half and then wait 20 minutes and then do that again.
Not so fantastic.
I was like, yeah, this is all right. I'll do this gig. And then the next time was Pines of Rome. And that was like wait for 1 hour and 48 minutes and then come out on stage with Jeff Kernow and play really loud for 2 minutes and then leave. Like, okay.
It's a good life, right?
So wait, Lance, do you mean to tell me, Lance, that you had never played with any orchestra at all and the first time you ever did was with Philadelphia? Holy crap.
True story.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Go you.
And actually, because I'd only I got a call to play with National Symphony right out. I got out of the Air Force Band. Twice it happened that I had like no work basically for like 3 months, except I had like one gig. Mm-hmm. And it conflicted with the National Symphony thing. It was like, you got to be kidding me. And then Pittsburgh was the same thing. I think I might have been on a Boston Brass tour for that one. But then, it just never, ever happened. And then the first time was with Philly. Like,
that's all the same.
Right.
So it's
check that box off. Yeah, and now I get to play with Pittsburgh next month on the Janacek again, so I don't even have to learn a new piece.
It's still pretty good. Same two notes.
It's not like, it could be Heldenleben, it could be Quixote, it could be, I got to play Mars, Modern Hell, or Mahler. Yeah, it's like, nope.
You got it down now.
I don't even have to write the fingers in.
I'm sure Jen was taking her style points from your little motif there over.
Sounded awesome.
And there you go. And Jen and I played together many moons ago at the Boston University Tanglewood Institute when we were both high school students.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Oh my gosh,
that was one. Yeah. Were you there for 1 year or 2 years?
There's some funny old pictures of that whole situation there.
Yeah.
I did 3 summers. I guess two of them were with the orchestra, and one of them was with the Empire Brass Quintet Seminar.
What year were you in Empire Brass Seminar?
Oh boy. I guess it must have been 92 for the seminar and 93 and 94 for the orchestra.
There you go. I did the orchestra in 92 and 93 and I did Empire in 90 and 91. So yeah, there you have it.
Oh, funny.
Yep. Yes.
Weren't those incredible programs? I thought they were ridiculously helpful in my life.
Life-changing. Yeah. The
Super
fact that as a youngster getting coachings from Empire and from Atlantic every day, and then the orchestra getting to play with people like you and Colin Williams, and I mean the list just goes on and on and on of just incredible. So
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we're really lucky.
Yeah. So that was actually the peak of my orchestral career, but you kept on you kept on climbing. So I guess I should call NRO the peak of my orchestral career. But anyway, it's
a pretty good peak.
Yeah, that is a pretty good peak. Yeah, that is a pretty good peak. You have played with just a ridiculous list of orchestras. First, tell us, how long have you been with Philadelphia?
I guess it's been 11 years.
I think time flies, doesn't it?
I know. It's crazy.
And where were you before Philly?
Before that, I was principal in St. Louis Symphony for 3 years. And then before that, associate in Dallas Symphony for 3 years. And the first year of that was actually third horn and associate before they split the two positions into two. I mean, the one position into two. Mm-hmm. And then before that was 2.5 years with the New Jersey Symphony. And that was my first job. And that was when I was in New York at the end of school.
I actually saw you perform with New Jersey. Speaking of NRO, my good friend John Grillo, who's a bass player, who was subbing with Jersey, and I was in New York just hanging out, and I went with him to a concert. I don't remember what you guys played, but the group sounded really good. So,
nice. Yeah, it's a great band. John actually plays. He and my husband play a lot together because my husband's a bass player also.
Oh.
So the small world and the circling back of all of the friendships within the community keeps on happening.
Yeah, Grillo is he's insane. I love him. He's a crazy individual who has more passion for what he does than possibly anybody else I've ever met. So
yeah, totally.
anyone who is listening who knows him, and he's played with so many people, is screaming, yes, he is. So, because he's nuts. So, so tell us, what is it like playing principal horn in one of the best symphony orchestras in the world?
Oh, well, I guess I would say it's amazing and incredible and super inspiring musically, and just gratifying in that way, just with the level of people that you get to play with. And then, so it's got an intense part of it in terms of playing principal and having it be horn, where there's a lot of solos and things, and occasionally like it'll you'll feel like a mountain top of, sort of an incline of pressure and intensity in certain situations, like a Carnegie thing with a big part, or on tour, certain places, certain halls and things like that. And then in a lot of ways, it's just like any other, of all the orchestras that we all have played in. So in a way, it's exactly the same. It's just nice to play music with people and great parts and great pieces. And, it's all that. So it's multiple levels of things. But it certainly is like my dream come true to get to play with that particular band, and the others that I've gotten to play with. Like it's a little ridiculous to have gotten to get to do that. So it's sort of pinch yourself kind of thing.
Well, of course. How do you deal with super high pressure situations? Like, do you have a routine with that, or I mean, at some point you largely rely on experience and succeeding in the past, but how do you deal with pressure?
Oh boy, that is such a great topic, just as a big thing. It might be one of my favorite topics just because it's so topical to my life. I think for me, I start with sort of from the music downward to myself, if I can. So in general, if it's just a little bit of pressure and it's just, a nice piece and I have a nice solo coming up, I try to stay sort of connected to what's going on around me. I feel like usually when I do start to lose it mentally, it usually in an orchestra setting, for example, it's usually because I disconnect myself and I start thinking flailing thoughts of, oh my God, I'm going to die, or like they're going to think I suck, or my students here tonight and they're never going to listen to me if I mess this up, or like I start just kind of, going off into my own world of, crazy. And so if I can stay, like, okay, that's the tune that's happening. And now it's going to the oboe, and then they're doing that with it. So then if I just do this, and so I'll take a nice deep breath and I'm going to, I'm going to sculpt it to this, and then I'm going to change the color on that, and I'm going to subdivide for this, use a little more airs. I go to the top of that crescendo and then see if I can taper. If I can stay in the moment in a musical sense, that takes care of a lot of it. And if I start freaking out, then I do a little bit of cheerleader underneath that. If I start not being able to breathe well, then I'll try to take deeper breaths or subdivide more. So I start at like kind of the musical level of it. If it's something that's really big or really intense, or say for auditions, I have, part of my education and, a lot of ours is sort of the meditation and yoga and visualization type stuff. And like I used to do a lot of the Don Green books and Soprano on Her Head and Inner Game of Tennis. Now, Noah Kageyama has a really good website and sort of different things that are so helpful. So yeah, I sort of periodically, I try to keep in touch with all of that. And if I'm preparing for something big, if there's something big that's happening that week, or if I have a concerto somewhere, or, anything that's out of the ordinary, I usually try to do some of that. And I do yoga before everything that's certainly everything that has 8 horns. So all the Bruckner, Mahler, Strauss type of Shostakovich type of stuff. And I do meditation before anything that's like a big solo. So it's sort of a regular diet of multiple different things. And then actually in orchestra, situations right before a solo, like in the part where you usually have the assistant play the X number of bars before whatever solo it is, or in the tutti passage before it, I will drop out. And as I'm like emptying my slides and doing that, I do there's a Don Green centering thing where you sort of pretend like you're hula hooping, and then it turns into a ring of fire, and it zaps inside your body and turns into like a ball of fire and attaches to your spine. This, of course, is all imagery, but it's there's a spot that martial artists fight from called a chi spot that's 2 inches below your belly button and 2 inches inside. And if you kind of concentrate your energy towards there, it's a place of strength and energy and sort of force and power. And I feel that sort of burning with this ball of fire, imagine ring cycle type of thing. And then it sort of burns its way up my spine, and then I'll open my eyes on the count of 3 and try to burn a hole through the page in front of me. And then I'll do sort of a certain number of subdivisions, to get myself into the rhythm and back to being attached to the orchestra. And then I'll take a bunch of deep breaths in whatever the style is that's happening. And then again, listen to what's going around and then go. So it's kind of a layering of a mental focus thing, like that centering thing, and then reattaching to the music that's happening and bringing subdivision and breath along with it.
How long have you been doing meditation, yoga, stuff like that?
Since my first year at Juilliard, my teacher, Julie Lansman, was big into all of that. And I have all my students do some very basic yoga, just a little bit every day, and basic meditation, again, like 5 minutes a day. I think if you do like 10 minutes of yoga, 10 to 20, even something like that, and you just attach the physical motions that you're doing to sort of the concentration of your mind. So it's, of course, a physical discipline, but then if you sort of notice what's happening in your body as you stretch, if you pay attention to the breath and how, like, if you're stretching in an uncomfortable way, it's a little harder to breathe. So you breathe into that stretch, and you might feel pain from tightness, and you breathe into that. And I feel like that's the transferable thing to brass players, is being able to circle back to your body and be mindful of it in the moment and be able to do something that helps it, like namely breathing through it. So I feel like that's what kind of can keep us grounded in pressure situations and can keep us breathing well when we get a little nervous, and, sort of being able to rely on rhythm when we get sort of scattered. So it's kind of training your mind to be able to be in tune with your body.
Is there a particular form of yoga that you like over the others?
That I do?
I mean, yeah.
Well, I started with...
Or that you advocate?
Yeah, sure. I started with a book called, I think it was like 28-Day Guide to Yoga by Richard Hittleman, Hittleman. That was my original foray into it. And of course, that was before the internet had so many amazing, websites and things with videos of stuff. Now I do basically, there's a sun salutation, which is a series of yoga exercises. If you take a sun salutation apart and hold each of the poses, like you do it all together. And then if you then take it apart and hold each of the poses for about 20 seconds and breathe in and out as you're holding it, and then sort of slowly go from one to the other, then that's a really nice, it's really good for horn anyway, because it gets your shoulders back. It kind of, the standing part of it makes you feel sort of grounded and centered into the floor. Like I have a website, chenmontone.com, that has a bunch of meditations and things. And I have a 10 toes meditation, which is one of my teacher's meditations, but I kind of connect it to a tree pose, a yoga tree pose. And there's some sort of connection things we can do where you sort of layer a yoga pose, with a meditation, and kind of get more bang for your buck that way. But I like doing that sun salutation separation a lot. I do that every day.
And then back over to the meditation. Then, is there you said you have some meditations? Is when you are advising your students, do you suggest they do a guided meditation, or they just sort of sit quietly, or is it what By what
Yeah.
means are you getting them to do that?
Well, there's that app, Headspace.
The Headspace?
Yeah, that's the easiest one that I know of. That's what my Curtis students, they found it on their own. One of my kids found it. One of my students found it, and recommended it to her colleagues. So they all do that. I think guided meditation's great. The ones that I learned, there was one that I did in a meditation class once that I went to, which was really helpful, which was a Mount Fuji meditation where you sit cross-legged and you imagine you're Mount Fuji, and by being a mountain, you're strong and you're grounded. And no matter what rain falls, you're okay. And no matter what the clouds of thought that go, across your mind, they do go away, like they disappear. So it's that one's a little bit of like a resilience meditation, a grounded, like, I can watch my thoughts as they go across my mind and I can let them go, AKA clouds, and I can withstand whatever. And I'm still this very strong, beautiful mountain. And, all of my flora will still bloom, so there's that kind of thing, which I love. There's a man called Jack Kornfield with a K who has videos and audios and books on the Kripalu website, also starts with a K, which of course is in Lenox, Massachusetts, as is Tanglewood. But that website, Kripalu website, their gift shop has some really nice guided meditation resources. And that Jack Kornfield one, is he has a really nice one that I do, which is a lava lamp meditation where you imagine that you're a lava lamp basically filled with liquid light, and you can be whatever color you want to be, but it fills your whole body. And then your whatever places of pain or tension or fear, they light up red, and then your hands light up a healing white, and then you breathe and you bring your healing hands to the places of tension, pain, and fear, and you sort of breathe your own healing into your own body. So it's a little bit of a little bit on the hippy dippy side of things as far as, sort of being able to self-heal and self-soothe. But I find it really good when I've had a couple of injuries, and I certainly have periods throughout my career where I feel less grounded and less able to control my own emotions in relation to music. Like I'll start feeling not good enough, or like I'm at a plateau, or that it hasn't improved in a while, or that I don't deserve my job, or things like that. And when I get myself spinning, then I do these healing kind of meditations, and they help me feel a little bit more in control and more okay about everything and able to actually play.
How much time a day do you spend in meditation?
Not much a day, just maybe it's as needed for me at this point. I usually, for a long time, I did 5 minutes a day, and that was really good, just to keep me stable. And now I do that every couple of days. Usually on concert days, I'll do that. So maybe 3 days a week, I'll do 5 minutes. And then if I feel, like I said, a little scattered, or emotionally not super stable, then I will do more.
It seems like the consistency is, for me, I know firsthand, the consistency is way more important than in the specific amount of time.
I totally agree. Yeah.
There's another app you might dig that's called Oak, O-A-K.
Oh, nice.
And it's free. And it's you can do guided or timed or different sound effects behind it.
Oh, that's great.
I like that one a lot. And then two other things. Oh, one. So I can't remember if I heard it on a podcast or I was reading somewhere that if you're doing self-talk or you're doing affirmations, that speaking to yourself in your mind, I guess it could be out loud, in second person or third person. You sound weird if you do it out loud, so I would say do it in your head. But speaking to yourself in second or third person. So instead of "I've got this," I can play that note, or I can. You need to say "You've got this," you can do it, or Lance, you've prepared, you can X whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that's really interesting is that far more than the other instruments that we've covered on the Brass Junkies, the horn players have ended up talking about meditation way more frequently than the rest of the folks.
That's really, really funny and makes sense, I feel like.
It does. I think so too. So do you know, do you know Phil Munns at all?
No, a little bit. just sort of from, I'm from Northern Virginia. And so we knew each other.
That's right.
Actually, from when I was in high school. I have looked up to him for a very long time.
I was just,
Ooh, she just called him old.
I know, I think old.
No, I called him amazing. That's different.
I was, this is reminding me of a story from, God, I don't know, 12 years ago. I was in Mexico with a quintet with Marty Hackelman was the horn player,
nice.
and Jens, who we're going to make fun of in a little bit. And it was, and Fred Mills, and it was really great.
Nice.
And Jim Thompson. Yeah, it was this phenomenal group. But
how many guys were in your group?
Well, there were 6. Yeah,
Oh.
there was because we did the BAME sextet, which I had to do on C-tuba, which was probably the most terrifying thing I've ever done in my life. And I wish I had heard Jen's very thoughtful, first 20 minutes of this interview before that performance. It went really well, but I was, we'll just say I was happy when it was in the rearview mirror. But but we went to this dinner with the mayor of this town in Mexico, and we were each asked to give a little speech, and it was being translated, obviously. And I went out of my way, since Marty was one of my heroes growing up, and I went way out of my way to say that when I was a very little boy, that I had a poster of Marty up on my wall, and Marty shot me this look like, I'm going to kill you, Hitz, and then I just had to stand there as I smiled at him, because they were then translating it into Spanish, and then I just kept going. It was a minute and a half long of how much I looked up to him when I was a very young boy. It was great. Yeah, it was
awesome.
It was good. So
I can imagine that look.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's got a good one.
He's got a good look. Yeah.
I just wanted to give him the opportunity to utilize that skill. So
nice
I've been talking with some of my students recently in terms of the self-talk thing. I think it's great that you're advocating intentionally doing it, and what Lance just said in terms of the second or third person thing in a positive way, because we all fall into this trap at times. Well, you alluded to it earlier, right? Where it's where we tend to at times humans will talk to ourselves using words and in a tone that we would never dream of addressing any other human being with.
Precisely. Yes.
Yeah, we can just be so nasty to ourselves,
Indeed.
And that just doesn't end well. It never helps. It doesn't always make things go badly, but even if it goes well, you still feel horrible afterwards.
Yeah,
and then you can convince yourself
it erodes your sort of sense of self pretty quickly.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of focus and pressure and things, I had to Google the date, but I was reminded when I was on your website, and just we were talking back and forth and about your kids and everything, and I saw the Philly Orchestra perform, as you know, I've seen you a few times up there, but I saw you perform in early November of what year was this? Early November of 2013.
Oh.
And you did Heldenleben, and you played the absolute crap out of it, and you were very pregnant, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes, I would have been very pregnant.
Yeah. So what? Which was just there was no how you sounded, which is how you always sound when I hear you perform. It's always just fantastic.
Thank you.
So you didn't sound good for being very pregnant. You sounded amazing, but then on top of that, you were how pregnant were you? How many months along were you at that time?
I guess, okay. Well, my younger son, Felix, was born December 29th of 2013. So
there you go. So you were a month and a half away from. So what is it like to play a piece as demanding as Heldenleben? You're playing principal and you're 7.5 months pregnant.
Oh, well, so I guess when I was first pregnant with my first son, Max, I ended up finding that I didn't think that I was using my air very effectively in general in life as a horn player. I found that as soon as there was a little bit of, sort of resistance or pushback in there, I kind of noticed wow, I have much more capability than I generally use. And I think in the next couple months, I'm going to need that. So I actually ended up circling to back to some Arnold Jacobs stuff because I sort of remembered that was a little bit of his sort of wisdom came from that realization also. So basically, it ended up being a little bit of a lesson those months, both times, about sort of efficiency and using what you've got. And so I ended up feeling like until the very, very end, I'd say until maybe 9th month or so, that I actually was just fine, because there was plenty of lung there that if I actually focused on it. And, maybe I I think I changed how I was sitting a little bit. Like, I always feel like I have the option of either arching my back more or kind of doing the opposite, like kind of rounding my back more. And that depending on which way I do it, my breath is different and my support is different, and and my sound is a little different. If I'm more rounded, it's a little bit deeper. If I'm more arched, then it's a little brighter. So I noticed that, and I fool around with that anyway. But I think when I was pregnant, I was especially sort of noticing where can I get the air in, and, where can I breathe? And I think I ended up adding breaths, kind of like you do when you play at altitude, Colorado or whatever. But I definitely was adding breaths in there a little bit more frequently. But I think I just was more mindful about actually taking a really deep breath and an open kind of yawn breath, silent, nice, relaxed breath every single time, which is, of course, something that we should all be doing anyway. So I try to keep it now in the back of my mind more frequently. So it was a good learning experience for that.
Have you always, what you just described was an incredibly positive and proactive approach to a situation. And is that a thing that you've always, has that always just been a part of you? Was that a thing that maybe your parents or your teachers, or where do you think that came from?
Well, that's a really good question. I know it came from some of my teachers. I know Sylvia Alamina, Ted Thayer, Eric Rusk. I know that it came from them even before I got to Juilliard and studied with Julie, who of course is very proactive. I think, my parents are they're not shrinking wallflowers. They're definitely go get 'em, Tiger. My dad always before anything, and still he comes to concerts and he's like, go get 'em, Tiger. It's just it's absolutely adorable. It's definitely go, 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 don't give up. So I think, of course, a lot of the things that we get from our parents help us with, like you said, kind of taking challenging situations and then making them into learning experiences and positive, growth opportunities. So, yeah. And music field is so good for that anyway. It's the lifelong learning stuff. It's the perfect thing for that.
Well, now let's turn it, you teach. And so how do you try and, here comes a big word. You ready? Spoiler alert. Inculcate these concepts with your students.
Damn, dude, that was impressive.
I know. I need a nap.
Smart.
I gotta lay down. I'm a little winded.
I'm already lying down.
Improper breathing.
Yeah, right.
Getting fading.
Okay. I guess I try to let all of that seep in with the way that I try to describe stuff. I think there's technical things and there's musical things that one talks about in a lesson. And then there's sort of emotional, helping people handle the emotions of life, and how it relates to their playing, and kind of trying to grow in at least those three ways at the same time. At least for college teaching, I think this is applicable. But yeah, I think at least for college teaching, you're getting to work with these amazing humans right as they're becoming full adults, and they're learning how to teach themselves, and they're learning how to sort of kickstart their own careers and be lifelong learners and lifelong teachers of themselves. And so as their education progresses, especially as they get closer to graduating, or for master's students, I do try to talk about how can you be in charge of what comes out your own bell, not only do your own homework and, it's your job, but it's less that way, but more just like you get to have control over it, which means you get to make the musical choices. Like, you don't need me to tell you how to phrase that. You know that. Like, I love your musical instincts. They're beautiful. Go ahead and trust them and exaggerate them. I mean, somebody might disagree with them, but they're not, there's very little that can be wrong if you're doing something that's, musically educated in any way. It's like most of us instinct to good decision making musically. And then also, like, if you are having a problem with something, it's like, okay, so what do you think I would say? Well, go ahead and try that, or like, what does your instinct tell you? Do you think that's a breathing problem? Do you think that's a tongue problem? Do you think that's a face thing where you're not dropping your, jaw open enough for that low thing to center? How would you make that harder for yourself so you can, it's like do it stopped, or do it on the mouthpiece, or do it, articulate it a bunch of times, loud, so that your face has to find where it needs to center. Like, kind of helping them know that they have the information inside themselves, and helping them trust it.
Man, that's fantastic. I end up, Andrew and I both do a lot of coaching of entrepreneurial type things. And there's a concept we've stolen from a guy named Seth Godin, which is, once you have the permission of the universe to do X, Y, Z, then you have the obligation to carry it out. If it's a thing you want to do. And that's so often we think of music making as a separate skill set, or a separate thing that we are doing. There's like the music stuff, and then there's the not music stuff. But what you just said exactly coexists, because the student not only has permission to make their own musical decisions, but it is vital that they must. It is critical for them to have any kind of career, for them to step up. And this is how Joanne plays this. This is how Stephen plays this. This is because that anybody can be a horn operator. Well, not anybody,
gosh.
But
and being an imitator doesn't do the world any good. It's like, it's
correct.
It's all of each of our individual voices that makes the field worth anything.
Testify.
And that's why there is room in the world for you, and for Phil, and for Julie, and for everyone to, because you're all like, and to 99.9 repeating % of the world, if they were to hear the three of you play the horn, they would all say, that woman or that man is really good at the horn. And there's like a very small percentage that might start to have some preferences, as in terms of our artistic decisions and things like that. But the reason why every one of you is working is because, like, the thing that you have that Phil doesn't is that you're you, and the thing that Phil has that you don't is that Phil is Phil, and that everyone has their own happiest moment and their own saddest moment, and everyone's had their heart broken and has been really mad and has been scared, and all of that goes into what ends up, the story that ends up coming out of your bell. I love that you're like, that you're intentionally teaching that it is already inside of you. So let's do all of this stuff for the horn operating to help that story come out. But you don't need to take pointers from your very accomplished teacher about your story, because you know your story. Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely. I totally believe in all that.
Yeah, that's good teaching. There you go.
All right.
One of these days you're going to get a good teaching gig. So, yeah. And I don't even think we've connected the dots. Where do you teach?
I teach at Curtis, and I have a few students at Juilliard.
Yeah, so there you go. Those two are pretty good. So,
they're very good students at those schools.
Yes, it turns out that there is. So I wanted to ask you, there are not very many female principal horn players in the orchestra world. Certainly the numbers are, the percentage, and I don't know what it is, but it's really low compared to them. So what are your thoughts on that? Is that something that you regularly think about, never think about? Do you feel like you have a responsibility? What are your thoughts on the subject?
I rarely think about it. I've noticed that. I think it's changing quite a lot. Like, I think when I first started teaching, I think there were fewer female students, and now I think it's half and half. I think just the world has changed in the last 30 years, and I think as those kids that are student age now, as they get into the field, it'll just even itself out. Like, I don't think it's, I think the era that was having a lot of trouble with that was definitely this Susan Slaughter, Freitas, a little bit into Julie Landsman's era. Like, I think they did and Gail, they kind of did the legwork for it to not be weird for there to be female brass players and female principals, and kind of, and it's all the sort of the growth in, thinking of every human being equal. It's all the, improvements in that whole topic, which have been ever growing, in our lifetime. So I think that, I think you can easily just put it to that. I think at this point, it's no longer unusual or seen as anything negative if you get out from behind a screen and you happen to be young and female. Like, I think it's, I've played in a bunch of different orchestras, and I think even, from the smaller orchestras to the bigger orchestras, the people in the horn world are very respectful of their colleagues. If they like what's coming out of your bell, they tend to respect you. And I remember one time to this one topic, I was raised very, I don't know if you remember this, Andrew, like when we met, it was I had wanted to be a nun until I was about 14. And I was raised very don't assume that anybody, is going to really, it's like, don't assume that you're all that great in a way. It's like, try your best, but don't be haughty. Don't presume, don't presume you're a badass. Just, it's like, just do what do what you're told and do what so a pretty traditional upbringing. And I think sometimes girls maybe, are sort of subconsciously a little bit less trained in the leadership thing, a little bit. And so it's something that you end up having to develop later, depending on your personality and depending on your upbringing. So I remember once in St. Louis, it was my first principal job, and I was trying to say something to my section, which I don't say much in section situations, but I was trying to say something about us not being together or something. And the assistant and associate, Larry Strebe, leaned over to me, and I think I was saying, like, "Hi guys, so I was kind of thinking at that spot, I hope you don't mind, but I was sort of thinking when we play with the rest of the brass, it's like the notes, our note ending, or I think maybe we're a little bit behind," and he just leaned over and he was like, "Jen, you're right. Just say it." And I was like, "Okay, we're behind there from 35 to 38. And everybody was like, "Okay." I was like, "Okay, just say it." Like, just trust yourself and say it. So
that's
I think
exactly how we used to talk to each other in Boston Brass, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like, okay, like you don't have to butter everybody up, just, or worry that they're not going to like you if you, say something to them. Like, leadership means just saying it. So I know for my personality, and I don't even know if that has anything to do with gender, but that's a story I relay to students who are a little bit shy. If they have sort of the musical personality to be a leader of a section, but their personality, as a person is a little bit on the shyer side or the more self-deprecating side. That, like, when it comes to musical speak, when you're talking about music or when you're coaching music or teaching, or even to yourself, it's like, don't water it down. Just, like, speak your truth, speak your opinion, and trust that the people in the world want to actually hear it.
I do remember when, back when we were in high school, when I first met you, I do remember that there, was a disparity between, when I, on a personal level, you were just so pleasant, and not in the stay out of the way, like a bad way, but you were just so pleasant and you just were always smiling and everything. And then when you were playing the horn, it was just like screaming opinions in the best way possible, like exclamation points for days. And it was just kind of like, you had a lot of room to have a lot more attitude about your horn playing than you did. So, it was just because, you were throwing down on the horn, and then you would take the horn off your face, and then you were back to just being very pleasant. So, which was, it was good for someone like me to see. So it's like
interesting. I mean, Julie, I think for any leader of a section, and especially if you have 4 people in your section, it's helpful to have your opinions be a little bit reflected in your personality. I think just so that you get respect from your colleagues if you're making decisions that they'll actually listen to it. So that actually connecting the dots a little bit between, like, trying to own my own opinions, that was definitely taught by Julie to me, who of course is a very, strong, confident woman. So like, I think I needed somebody to tell me that that is okay. And that doesn't make you a jerk. It just makes you, someone that people will respect. So it was helpful for me to try to be a little bit, to own my opinions a little better. I think it makes me a better teacher and a better principal. So I try to do that. Although I certainly do flip back to being a little bit, trying to please people. But it's all
everyone always accuses Lance of being too pleasant also. So we just
especially at the DMV.
Yeah.
Oh, the DMV.
Oh, the happy guys here again.
Hey, can you tell us about the National Brass Ensemble and what that's like to be a part of?
Oh, that's amazing. It's so cool. Just the whole idea of it is so cool. Well, so the National Brass Ensemble was something Michael Sachs created about a couple years ago, sort of to do a sister recording of the famous Gabrielli one with Chicago, Cleveland, and Philly sections. And if you don't know that recording, young
get on it,
folks. Yeah, get on it. Yeah, I mean, it actually, I don't think a lot of my students knew about it until we did this recording. And actually, they made a documentary about the making of that, which is actually really fun. That's out there. The making of the new recording, the one that we did, and they did a video documentary about it. And it's just interesting, sort of all the different ways there are to skin the cat kind of thing, like all the different great ways there are to be an opinionated and, sort of confident brass player. And then how that doesn't mean that you can't like join forces together. Like it was super fun to try to play that repertoire. And it's like Gabrielli is so all about blend and balance and, communal and collective. So it was amazing trying to all of us force our minds into those parts of the skill set as opposed to the, personality aspects of playing. So it's kind of the joy of chamber music within an ensemble kind of thing. So it was both a challenge and an honor in the same weekend.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think, Andrew?
Seems like it's time to ask her about Jens, right?
That's what I was leading to. I mean, it's so tragic what he's going through. I'm
so sorry to hear that.
I know.
So you're
such a great musician,
No, Jens Lindemann.
You're oh, that's just not nice. No, so no
wonder he
nice.
Doesn't call when it comes to Pittsburgh.
That's not nice. So, this is going to be fun to get someone as thoughtful as Jen to make fun of Jens. This is great. This is going to be awkward, and that's what we go for on this podcast.
I was going to say, I already feel awkward.
Well, our work here is done.
The nervous laugh has already started. So
it really has.
Yeah, well, it's things have been flowing very comfortably. So both Lance and I, we didn't even text each other like we need to do something about this. Yeah, if the whole thing is unawkward, we're going to get emails like, "Are you guys okay?"
Head trauma. It's all right.
Yeah, exactly. So what advice would you have for our dear friend Jens Lindemann in this incredibly trying time that he's going through out in Los Angeles?
Well, first off, I'm so sorry, Jens. Really saddens me to hear you're going through this.
It's like a documentary voice all of a sudden.
I know, right? If you want serious thoughts on injuries, I do have lots of serious thoughts about injuries.
I don't think there's a lot of resources on your website. I'm not sure if any directly pertain to what Jens is dealing with, mainly because we made it up. But anyway,
I want you to know that we're all behind you, Jens, and that we all respect you deeply, and that we know you're going to get through this, and we have all the faith in the world that you will, find that inner strength within yourself. And it'll help carry you through.
All right, there we go. That was one of our more awkward ones, I think, especially because you were like you were
so
shocked.
nice.
Yeah, you're so nice.
Problem.
But you're also so shockingly articulate that it's like that was not inarticulate, but it was not as articulate as the first 40 minutes. So it's just kind of like, I can't believe these jackasses are making me do this. All that I've
occasionally my Curtis kids try to make me do like a spoof video for the Curtis holiday party, and I'm equally awkward.
Oh, good. Well, I hope they find their way to the 50th or so minute of this episode. So that's
they would probably enjoy.
Yeah, I'm sure they would. Yeah, that's good. I know my students always enjoy any stories of me being awkward, and if they can actually hear it themselves, then that's even better. So.
Well, we have plenty of fodder in our lessons for things to mock me for.
Yeah, well, there is that. So, but then you can
threaten. Here's a really good meal, and now I'd like you to eat these pork rinds.
Yeah,
nice. There you go. Get down and give me 50.
Yeah, when I was joking before about how we always used to speak to each other in Boston brass rehearsal like that, that was not at all true. And the pork rinds just reminded me that I think we've told this story at least once on the podcast before, but it's been a few years now, so it's all kind of blending together. But we were teaching for a few days at the Hong Kong Academy for the Performing Arts, and we were out at dinner with the head of brass and also with a number of students, like maybe 20 brass students, at a restaurant, and the restaurant was pretty much empty except for us over in the corner, and one of our colleagues, Jeff Connor, to say that he is a finicky eater is that is an understatement. And we I don't remember who it was. I think it was Jose who said, like, I'll give you $20 if you eat this chicken foot, because they had brought out a whole chicken. And Jeff is quite the entrepreneur. So he was like, how much money do you guys have? And then Chris Castellanos threw either 50 or $75 in right away. I mean, it got real fast, and it got to over $200 really quickly. Yeah, because it seemed like he was actually going to do this, and we knew that this would torture our colleague, which is really what you're going for when you're in a band that travels that much. And
oh my gosh,
that's him calling.
Yeah, that's him calling right now.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
So,
I'm talking about the chicken foot.
There is a video up on YouTube of Jeff eating the chicken foot. So, and he tries to eat it so fast to just get it to rip the Band-Aid off that he actually ate one of the bones accidentally as well.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, it was one of the highlights of my 14-year career with the band. So there you go. So
I bet.
Yeah, it was good stuff. So
yeah, touring is always a good. You can always have some fun in that regard.
Yes, indeed. So, well, Jen, this has been incredible. We're gonna keep you around for a few more minutes to have the bonus episode for our Patreon patrons. And but man, this has been really enlightening. I don't think I've ever said that to a guest, Lance. Have I ever told a guest that it's been enlightening?
Earlier today, but no.
Earlier, well, yeah. I mean, Adam Fry, we interviewed 2 hours ago. So,
but you really sounded like you meant it.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
It was like me with Jens. No, but thank you for having this.
Great.
Having this whole Brass Junkies thing. That is actually truly enlightening. It's awesome what you're doing.
That's what we were going for. Lance and I were like, we're both really enlightening people. How can we combine forces to come up with something that's just even more enlightening than the sum of its parts? Or no, the sum is what. Anyway, I play tuba.
I think that was right.
Yeah, something like that. So.
Something like
all right. So thank you very much to Jen, and thank you, Lance, for carving out the time from your incredibly busy euphonium schedule. So we really do appreciate
it. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you.
We really do appreciate the first time you ever play with an orchestra is with the Philadelphia Orchestra. You're an awful human. That's really terrible. That's really terrible. Jen had to play Jen had to play with people like me in a high school orchestra, and then and you're just like, no, I'm just going to go right to Carol Jansch in Philly. That seems like it'd be a good entry point into this medium. So.
When you're good, you're good.
Yeah, good Lord. Anyway, all right. That is going to do it for another episode of The Brass Junkies. You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to help support the podcast in order to make more episodes like this one possible, please visit pedalnotemedia.com/donate for more details. Also, be sure to check out our latest recording, The Brass Recording Project, at brassrecordingproject.com. The Brass Junkies is produced by Will Houchin. Executive producers are Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.